Sunday night is football night for your Baltimore Ravens as they will be squaring off with the Jacksonville Jaguars on Sunday Night Football this weekend in one of the best games of the entire season. Baltimore comes in as a slight favorite, a lot of momentum right now, looking to capitalize in the AFC playoff picture as they are on track to capture the number one seed in the AFC. The Jags still hanging around. They're in the driver's seat in their division right now, but still have the Colts and the Texans in their rear view in that division. A huge game for both these teams coming up in just a moment. I'll give you my prediction. We'll go over keys to victory, injury report, all that and more in just one moment. But first, if you want to beat the Jags, need you to like the video. Don't jinx it. Don't take any chances. Don't maybe come find you because you didn't like today's video. Like the video. Do our part to make sure we get that Ravens win, and we'll continue here on Ravens Rundown. Let's start with the injury report for Baltimore, and it is pretty short compared to what we've talked about previously with this team. Devin Duvernay with a back injury. He is out as he goes on IR, and Malik Cunningham was brought in. We told you about that on yesterday's video. Mike Harrison with a groin injury. He's questionable. Kyle Hamilton will continue to monitor that. It doesn't look as bad as they initially thought. He is questionable with that knee injury, still remains day-to-day at this point. Meanwhile, the Jags, their injury report is pretty lengthy with some notable names like Walker Little, Tyson Campbell. A lot of guys questionable at this point in time, and obviously things could change. Ezra Cleveland, you may remember him. The Jags brought him over from the Vikings over the trade deadline. He's got a knee injury. He is questionable at the moment as well. Cisco on the list, about 7 players in total for Jacksonville. For the first time in a while, we go into a matchup where Baltimore is the healthier team, and the healthier team by a significant margin. And that is so relieving, right? I mean, just we can sit back here and pause for a second and be like, wow, everything feels okay for now, right? Knock on wood, at least going into this week. So that's a very good sign. And Trevor Lawrence, we'll talk about him more in just a second. Remember, he got banged up a couple weeks ago. How healthy is he? More on that here in just a bit. What's the final score going to be of this one? I got my prediction coming up at the end of the show, but I want to hear from you guys. Who wins? What's the final score? Weigh in that comment section and tell us what you think, how this game ultimately plays out. Today's show sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, the place to go for daily fantasy made easy. Go to prizepicks.com/SailItS for a $100 deposit match on your first entry. It's real simple with Prize Picks. You choose 2 or more players on any given category, whether you're talking fantasy points, passing yards, receptions, completions, all sorts of different stuff to choose from. And I'm going with Lamar on Sunday to have more than 219.5 passing yards. Also looking ahead to the college football playoff semifinal, Texas and Washington. I got Washington quarterback Michael Penix Jr. having more than 312.5 passing yards. If both these things hit, then I'm turning $20 to turn it into $60 on Prize Picks. Play along with me. PrizePicks.com/SailItS. $100 deposit match. Link is in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, proud partner of Ravens Rundown and Chat Sports. Now, our keys to a Ravens victory. Let's start with the quarterback position for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence. Got to force him into making mistakes. And when you look at Trevor Lawrence and kind of scout his game, the biggest flaw that I see is that when he makes one mistake, it spirals into more and more mistakes to follow after that. You think about last year, that playoff game against the Chargers, when he threw 4 interceptions. Granted, they did come back and win that game. But even just a week ago against the Cleveland Browns, threw 3 interceptions, still threw for over 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. But if you're the Baltimore Ravens, you have to do what you can to try to get Trevor Lawrence uncomfortable, start thinking about that injury from a couple weeks ago and all that. Because here's what the statistics show. The Ravens are 8-2 when forcing at least 1 turnover this season. Pretty good record. That's 4th best in the NFL. Meanwhile, the Jags have had a turnover problem in their own right, and part of it is due to their own quarterback. They've turned the ball over 22 times this season. That's tied for the 5th most of any team in the league at this point. So force some turnovers, go after Trevor Lawrence, try to make him uncomfortable, get some extra possessions. That'll go a long way. We told you yesterday that the challenge for the flock out there is to get us to 14,000 subscribers. And if we do so, you will be rewarded with a watch party coming up on Sunday when the Ravens take on the Jags. You guys made some significant progress. We had about 200 subs to get there at the beginning of the week. Now we're down to just 45 more to go. So if we get 45 subs between now and kickoff on Sunday, we are going live right here on the channel for a Ravens-Jags watch party. We'll have a few drinks on hand. We'll celebrate our 14,000 subscribers together. So if you need any incentive, go ahead and subscribe now for free and help us get there so we can have that watch party on Sunday. Number 2 in our keys to victory for Baltimore, getting OBJ involved. I got to tell you, I really like what I've seen from Odell Beckham Jr. over the last couple of weeks. He's starting to really hit his stride in the second half of the season. If you recall, at the beginning of the year, he was still banged up a little bit off and on, still trying to find his own in this offense. And now we're starting to see him come together. It reminds me of the role that he played in the LA Rams Super Bowl run a couple years ago when he was the spark plug that team needed in the second half of the season. And I'd still say to this day that would not have won that Super Bowl had OBJ not joined that roster. In the last 3 games, and remember, no Mark Andrews, it's a collective effort to replace him. OBJ stepped up, 11 catches, 247 yards, and a touchdown. He's playing his best football of the year right now. And you look at his statistics for the season, 500 total receiving yards. Almost half of those were just in the last 3 games alone. So OBJ is doing something right now. I want to see this continue. OBJ continue on this trek for Lamar and company to keep him involved and play that significant role because OBJ is doing big things for Baltimore. Will he continue to do big things this weekend against the Jags? Weigh in, tell me what you think. Will OBJ have a big game? Type OBJ for yes. Type no BJ for no. That's OBJ for yes, no BJ for no. Let me know. On that note of getting OBJ involved, taking it a step further, I want to see the Ravens be aggressive in the passing game with Lamar Jackson and company. We've seen this offense look good enough without Mark Andrews to have confidence in this passing attack. The way I look at it, as far as I'm concerned right now, that Lamar is doing what he needs to do. He feels comfortable. He's gotten likely involved. The passing game really hasn't missed much of a beat without Andrews the last couple of weeks. And think about this. When you examine this matchup with Jacksonville here, the Ravens are undefeated versus bottom 10 pass defenses in the league this year. 4-0. That's best in the league. Jags are in the bottom 10 of pass defenses. So that dials up pretty good for an opportunity for Lamar to really attack a weak secondary here in Jacksonville. You look at his passing numbers this year, Lamar's been much more accurate in this Todd Monken offense, closing in on 3,000 yards, 16 touchdowns. His turnovers have gone down, 6 interceptions this year. Lamar has been very effective with the passing game, and I like what we've seen. Hopefully this continues on this track. Number 4 on our keys to victory for Baltimore, finding an X factor. Who is going to be that guy to step up that maybe isn't that guy every week? Now, you could think of a number of guys in particular, but for me, the guy I got my eye on is going to be Geno Stone. Last week, it was Tylan Wallace. Tylan Wallace stepped in the return game when Devin Duvernay went down and had that walk-off return, and that was a big deal. I'm looking at Geno Stone potentially to be that guy. Currently second in the league in interceptions. But Geno Stone has been MIA really since about week 10. He and Kyle Hamilton have not played well together. When Geno Stone and Kyle Hamilton have been on the field together, that's when Geno Stone's been at his worst. And so they got to find some happy medium for these two to both play well at the same time. Because 3 of the last 4 games for Geno Stone, his PFF grade was under 53. Hasn't had an interception since week 9 against Seattle here. I want to see that Geno Stone that we saw a couple weeks ago play that X factor. I know that, he is a backup and all that, but we've seen Geno Stone play at a high level. To me, going up against Trevor Lawrence, we talked about trying to find those openings, create turnovers. This is a golden opportunity for Geno Stone to have an impact in this game. Who's the player that needs to step up for Baltimore? I said it's Geno Stone. What about you? Give me an X factor. Name them in that comment section. Who comes to mind? Last on our list, taking the crowd out early. We all know about Duval and, that atmosphere there in Jacksonville. And I know that it's not intimidating of sorts when you play at a football stadium that literally has a swimming pool in it. But this is the biggest game that the Jacksonville Jaguars have hosted at TIAA Field in years, right? They've literally been waiting all day, years, decades for Sunday Night Football. This is Trevor Lawrence's first ever Sunday Night Football game and the first ever Sunday Night Football game in Jacksonville since 2008. That's a long time. So with that said, you know that they're going to be fired up. This is a big deal for them. Lamar, on the other hand, I got to say, he knows when it's time to show up for prime time. His track record the last 2 seasons, these primetime games have been really good. Hasn't lost a primetime national TV window game in the last 2 years. Perfect 5-0 record. I think Lamar is going to shine, that we're going to see this offense come out, the gates firing right away, and try to take the crowd out of it and make a statement on Sunday Night Football. So to recap, our keys to a Ravens win. Force Trevor Lawrence into mistakes. Get OBJ involved. Be aggressive in the passing game. Find an X factor, whether it's a Geno Stone or a Tylan Wallace, one of those types, and then taking the crowd out early. If the Ravens do these things, I think they're going to be in good shape. I like a Ravens win personally. I'm going to go Baltimore 27-20 to get the win, get the road win, and get their 11th victory of 2023. Get in that comment section. Let me know who wins. What's the final score going to be when these two teams square off? Appreciate you joining us here on this edition of Ravens Rundown. If you enjoyed today's show, want that Ravens victory, hit the like button. I'll see you next time right here on Ravens Rundown.